Testing 1, 2, 3. This is Who Did You Boycott Today? Hello to you good folks. Hope you're doing well and that you are safe and out of harm's way. Well. Let me give a shout out to the Negro ancestors and respect and honor to the Negro ancestors. And a special shout out to ANDL organization and Aon, who is over the ANDL, and Talent, New Negro Republic, who is also a part of the ANDL. And then we have the farmer who held the Negro spaces on Twitter land, where I ran into the farmer around January 2023. It was the farmer, Aon, and Talent, New Negro Republic, that was holding down the Negro space on Twitter. They were the only human beings that stood on Negro. And the other 10 of us, including myself, who called into the OMB and told the OMB not to remove Negro. Everyone else who called into the OMB did not tell the OMB not to remove Negro. After they read it off for 3 straight days, for a whole 3 straight days, they read to the brain-dead human beings that we plan to remove Negro. We are planning to remove Negro. We are planning to remove Negro. And they still got on the phone and used their 2 minutes to talk and told the OMB they prefer to identify as Black American. They prefer to identify as African American. They prefer to identify as freemen. They prefer to identify as ADOS. They prefer to identify as FBA. Not one time did Negro come out of any of their mouth. Not one time during those 3 days did they ever say Negro out of their mouth to the OMB. Because I was there for all 3 days. I called in 2 hours early. A whole 2 hours early, I sat on my phone and waited for the meeting to start. Because I did not want to miss 1 minute. So I made sure to dial the number a whole 2 hours in advance. A whole 2 hours in advance, I called into the OMB each of those 3 days, and I heard each of their voices. So Donald Trump has dropped the second bombshell. Let's all say it together. Let's all say it together. Let's all record this time in history. Because 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, you're going to need to pull out that recording, because I am going to document this tonight. I am going to document this tonight, and I am going to give firm instructions to my daughter to protect it with her life. I will be giving firm instructions to my daughter. If something happens to me and I die, this recording is to be protected with her life. And if something happens to her, she is to pass it down to the next person. And my daughter is going to follow my instructions. I have no doubt about that. I have no doubt about that. She will follow my instructions to the letter. And this recording will be protected until she dies. So here we are. Donald Trump has dropped the second bombshell. The first bombshell was that he picked African American as these human beings' identity. So they are looking at a form that says Black/African American, but there's no box for Black beneath that heading. There is no box for you to check for Black on that form. but there's a box for African American. So Donald Trump made it very clear to all of these brain dead human beings before they voted for him. He told them his famous quote. Write down the famous quote. I want each one of you to write down the famous quote. Donald Trump quoted, "I do not want anyone to grow up hating America. I do not want anyone growing up to hate America." Donald Trump told these brain dead human beings those very words before they voted for him. So they cannot pretend that they were not aware of his intentions. But they totally blindly ran around for 2 years, for a whole 2 years, they ran around for a whole 2 years caping for the Republicans. And they had to know that they were caping for their own demise. They were caping for their own erasure. But they were blinded. They were blinded by their own selfishness and their own agenda. They were blinded by their own selfishness and their own agenda. So they are going to go down in history, whoever write it. They will go down in history for how they sabotaged their own existence. They sabotaged their own existence, and they helped Donald Trump in America erase 246 years. That's what they did with that little vote. When they walked into that voting booth and they checked that box, they were telling Donald Trump and the Republicans and the Democrats and America and the whole world that they were okay if America erased 246 years plus another 100 years up until 1965. That's what they did. They did that volunteer. Nobody had a gun to their head. No one had a gun to their head. They walked into that voting booth and they volunteered to vote for Donald Trump. And they erased 246 years. They helped Donald Trump erase 246 years. And Donald Trump has been quite busy. I want all good folks who have intelligence and common sense to go search. What has Donald Trump done to remove or erase Negro history since he took office? Since we always talking about Grok and ChatGPT and all these AI sources and Google, go do the search and ask directly, what has Donald Trump done to erase 246 years plus another 100 years up until 1965 since he took office? And you're going to get it all printed out in black and white for you to read it. You don't have to guess at it anymore. You don't have to make an assumption about it anymore. You do not have to make a guess at it anymore or any type of assumption. So Mark King Carter and Sway Me, Donald Trump sent you a direct message. He rewarded you. He wanted you to get a special reward for running around being proud to vote for Donald Trump. You folks, I hope you get a lot of government contracts out of it. I hope each one of you get a lot of government contracts like Mark King Carter run around bragging about that 163 million. That little 163 million, I hope it lasts. I hope it lasts as long as he lives. I hope that it has helped his family members get in a better financial situation, because I don't know how far $163 million can go when it's divided amongst however many people, however many persons. But Mark King Carter is quite comfortable financially. That man is quite comfortable financially. He got an inside connection. Mark King Carter has an inside connection. Sway me, I don't know about her situation, but she's constantly running around here crying about this word called freeman and how proud she is that she voted for Donald Trump. Well. Each one of you and all you folks, DJ Big A, dear Mark, all of you brain dead human beings who voted for Donald Trump has made it very clear with this second bombshell. This is a second bombshell, and he did not leave any guesswork. He said slavery. That he do not want all of this horrible things to be said about America. I do not want all of these horrible things to be spoken about America. I do not want all of these horrible things to be spoken about America. And I don't want anyone talking about how bad slavery was. Well, Donald Trump put it in black and white, so you don't have to read between the lines. You don't have to guess. You do not have to make an assumption. Donald Trump said slavery, that he do not want folks saying that slavery was bad. Well, slavery was evil. You need to replace that word called bad. You need to replace that word called bad and call it evil, because it was evil. Evil, sick human beings. They were evil, sick human beings. Subpar human beings, let me correct myself. Evil, sick, subpar human beings who are not even part of the human race. They're not even part of the human race. When you can make another human being a slave, you make it very clear that you, your individual self, is not a human being. So all of those subpar human beings who took part in Negro slavery, each one of them were sick, very, very sick subpar human beings. They were very, very sick subpar human beings. They're not even a part of the human race. They are not even part of the human race. And for all of these pink people who keep running around, Caucasians running around claiming that pink people, Caucasians, only made up 2%, send me the verified proof. Send me the verified proof that it was written that only 2% of the total population of pink people, Caucasians, own slaves. And that the Jews own more slaves than the pink Caucasian people. Send me the proof. Send me the verified proof. If you cannot send me the verified proof, then you are a bald-faced liar. You are a bald-faced liar, and God is waiting on you. God is waiting on your judgment day, because everything that we do, everything that we say, everything that we do, everything that we say is written in the book. It's already recorded. See how that works? So us mortal human beings can lie until we pass out, but it's already recorded. It's recorded the very second that you do it. The very second that the words come out of your mouth, the very second that you take action and do something, it's already recorded in the book. And God is waiting on you. God is waiting on you, and you will stand before Judgment Day. Before you take that last breath, you are going to stand before Judgment Day the same way I am going to stand before Judgment Day. And everything that I have said and everything that I have done, I am going to be judged. That's a guarantee. That is a guarantee. That is a guarantee. That is a guarantee. So it don't what's the use of wasting energy and time off your life? What is the purpose of wasting energy and time off of your life running around lying, trying to whitewash the recorded history? You folks should have been back there when they were recording it, because they recorded it. You should have been reincarnated and standing beside each one of those subpar human beings who recorded it, because they were so proud. They were so proud of their evil that they recorded it. They recorded it very thoroughly. And so you are a couple hundred years too late to try to paint a different narrative, because you would have to have the ability to collect all those books, all of those documentations, all of those birth certificates, all of those marriage license and death certificates that have Negro on it. All that documented history that they recorded it about Negro slavery. They were so proud of it because they were making money. They were so proud of it because they were evil and they loved money. So they recorded it thoroughly. So all of you pink people, Caucasians, because you're certainly not white. You are not white. Because all you need to do is pull out a piece of paper that's white and put it up next to your skin, and you're nowhere near white. You're nowhere near white, like nobody is nowhere near black. But you brain dead human beings keep running around calling yourself white and black like it's a real thing. You got clear proof of mental damage. You have clear proof of mental damage when human beings run around and call themselves white and black. When clear as day that no human being was born black. No human being was born white. God birthed each human being into a specific bloodline that's flowing through their body that keep them alive. That blood, that precious blood that flowed through your body and my body, that precious blood that flowed through your body and my body is not spelled white. It's not spelled black. No, God named his people. God named every human being bloodline. God named every human being bloodline had an origin. It had a birth of an origin, and it was not spelled black, and it was not spelled white. But you folks run around and proudly call yourself white and black like it's a real thing. The only reason why the two words white and black was stamped into the atmosphere, folks just reached up one day. They just reached up to the sky and poured down two words. They poured down those two words, and they were white and black, and they stamped them into existence. And they kept on repeating it. They kept right on repeating it. They never could have imagined how effective it was going to turn out. When they came up with those two words, they could have had no idea how effective it was going to have on human beings. But the sole purpose of those two words was to harm another human being. Call me a liar. The only purpose that those two words serve, white and black, is to harm another human being whose skin tone was melanin. Their skin tone was melanin. And so these evil, subpar human beings poured down two words, white and black, and stamped them into existence for the sole purpose to mistreat and harm another human being. call me a liar. Call me a liar. We got clear proof of that. We have clear proof of that. We have centuries and decades. We have centuries and decades of proof that they only serve that one purpose, that one clear purpose. But you still have adults running around being proud to call themselves white and black, especially the ones who call themselves black. They're going to pass this harm down to their children and grandkids, and they're quite proud of it. Because black is never going to be a bloodline. Black is never going to be a bloodline. It's never going to be a birthright. It's never going to be an ethnicity. It's never going to be a national origin. So you are volunteering to pass this harm down to your children and grandkids, because each human being was born into a specific bloodline, a human being. That baby that will be born the next second, the next minute, the next hour, they are a human being. They are not black. They will be born a human being into a specific bloodline that God birthed them into. And nothing came out of my mouth where God decided that that baby was going to be born a black person. Not one day, not 1 second did God decide that. God decided that that baby that was conceived by that father and mother, that was conceived by that father and mother, that God picked out that father and mother specially for that baby. I read that. I read it with my own 2 eyes. God picked out that father and that mother specially to conceive that baby. And when God picked out that father and that mother to conceive that baby, God knew what bloodline that baby was going to be born into. God already determined that. God already determined that, and it wasn't spelled black. And the Congress and the Senate and the president and the vice president don't get to decide that. Only God get to decide that. America don't get to decide that, because America's not God. See how that work? Do you see how that work? That's the one thing for sure that America and the president and the vice president and the Congress and the Senate don't have no control over. That the Supreme Court don't have any control over. Only one higher power have control over that, and that's God. See how wonderful that is? Do you see how wonderful that special gift from God is? The blood that keep you alive and keep me alive. God make that decision. And human beings will continue to lie. Human beings will continue to lie. But the blood don't lie. See, God knew. God knew that human beings, mortal human beings, were going to be flawed. They were going to be flawed, and they were going to be liars and corrupt. So God say the blood won't lie. The blood won't lie, but the human being will lie. The blood won't lie, but the human being will lie. So God say this is the one thing that they would not be able to lie about, because the blood will trace back to an origin. The blood will trace back to an origin that God gave it. See how that works? Do you see how that works? God said that blood will trace back to an origin, and that's what is a fact. So Donald Trump can erase everything that he has the ability to erase, but Donald Trump don't have the ability to erase the blood. See how that works? All of this effort to whitewash and repaint the narrative and rewrite the narrative of Negro slavery is a waste of time. It's a waste of time and energy. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy because a lot of folks have already recorded it. A lot of folks have already recorded it. A lot of folks have books and articles and documentaries. I personally have been screenshotting as much of the history that I can screenshot. It's already downloaded to my disk. Excuse me. Excuse me. So I have already downloaded screenshots of the history of Negro slavery, of Negro ancestors. It's already downloaded to my disk. So I don't need the Smithsonian. I do not need the Smithsonian Museum. I do not need to go to the Smithsonian Museum to learn about my Negro history. I do not need to go to the Smithsonian Museum to know about my Negro history. It's so much information out there. They have not gotten around to erasing it. But they working overtime. They are working overtime to erase it. So I would encourage folks to start screenshotting it and downloading it to a disk. Because Google and ChatGPT and all these books are being rewritten. They are in the process of doing that. They are in the process of doing that. And so you had best get busy recording it. You good folks who like to run around and brag about your ancestors, you had best start recording and screenshotting as much of that history before these evil demons get around to erasing it. So Donald Trump is late. Poor Donald Trump is late. He's a couple of 100 years late. Poor Donald Trump is a couple of 100 years late as far as trying to erase Negro slavery and wash the blood off America's hands. Somebody needs to contact Donald Trump and inform him that he's a couple of 100 years too late. He's a couple of 100 years too late to try to wash that blood off America's hands. They shouldn't have went to all the trouble to document it so thoroughly. And I heard through the grapevine that America they recorded the record so thoroughly it goes back to the 1600s. They were so happy. They were so proud of recording the evil that they went back to the 1600s and we can work our way up. That's how thorough they wanted to be. That's how thorough they wanted to be. So they went into high gear to recording their evil all the way back from 1619, all the way back to 1619 up to the present day. That's what happens when you're evil and then you record it to tell on yourself. That's pitiful. That's pitiful. That's downright pitiful when you wake up day after day and record your evil because you're proud of it. And then the day come when it tells on you. It's told on you that all of that recorded history has told on America and the whole world. Has told on America and the whole world. And Donald Trump think that he's going to erase that recorded history. He made it very clear that he made a B target to the HBCU HBCUs, historical black colleges and universities. So Donald Trump told you out of his own mouth that he made sure he wanted to target the historical black colleges and universities. While folks are running around crying about DEI, they running around crying about DEI. Donald Trump don't care about y'all DEI. Donald Trump cares about Negro history. That's what threatens America and the whole world. Not no DEI, not no abortion rights, not no LGBTQ, not no affirmative action, not no abortion rights, not any let's see what is it? Affirmative action, not no wait a minute, something done went wrong with my broadcast. I think you folks are blocking me. I think y'all are shadow banning me. So I'm gonna close this broadcast out and I'm gonna start over. I'm gonna close this broadcast out and then I'm going to start over. Because I seen what happened as I was talking. And so I am going to restart this broadcast from this point that I'm at right now. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. You folks are shadow banning me. You folks are shadow banning me because I can see the number count on Twitter. I can see the number count on Twitter, and you folks are shadow banning me. So I'm going to have to restart my broadcast. Just to be on the safe side, I am going to have to restart my broadcast. But before I close out, just in case this broadcast is working, for all the good folks who voted for Donald Trump and all the good folks who called into the OMB and did not want to protect Negro, well, you folks got a second bombshell today. Y'all got a second bombshell from Donald Trump. He told you to your face. He told you to your face that he wanted to remove anything that paints America in a negative light. Anything that talks about how bad Negro slavery was. So, all you good folks who keep running around talking about reparations, your justice claim is based on that 246 years of evidence. Your whole justice claim legal case is based on that 246 years of Negro slavery. That was the crime. You don't have Jim Crow and Black Code and sharecropping and prisoner pipeline if you don't have those Negroes who went through Negro slavery. See, y'all folks are getting paid back. Y'all are getting paid back. And so I'm gonna close this broadcast out so I can come back on here and finish giving my 2 cents, because I want this recording to be documented. I want this recording to be documented. I have got to make sure this recording is documented. So I will be closing out and coming back on later on. So thank you folks for popping in. I'm not sure if you folks can hear me because my computer is showing 0. My computer is showing 0, but when I switch over to Twitter land hallway, it's showing 15. So which one is true? It just went to 0 right in front of my eyes. It went to 0 right in front of my eyes. So either folks are Folks are either blacking out my broadcast or folks are still there. I don't know. I don't know which one it is. I do not know which one it is, whether or not folks have been removed or the broadcast has been blocked. But anyway, I am going to close out right now and restart because I'm going to record this one way or the other. I am going to make this recording because I tried for more than a year to tell these brain dead human beings that Donald Trump wanted to erase Negro. They didn't want to hear that. Tried to tell them from the time that the OMB removed Negro on the 28th of March 2024 that America was in the process of erasing Negro. They wanted to wash the blood off of their hands for Negro slavery. They got tired of hearing Negroes run around bragging about all of that wealth and infrastructure. They were tired of hearing Negro descendants run around and brag about the wealth and the infrastructure that built America. They were having a nightmare. They were having a nightmare because they constantly heard folks bragging about all of those 50,000 patents and inventions and all of those wars and the Civil War of how the Negroes fought to save the Union, the precious Union that had broke apart. And they were tired of hearing that. So they continued with their campaign to erase Negro. Because they true campaign started when MLK told America, I'm coming for the check. When MLK told America, I'm coming for the check, America went to the reclassification Black American. Called me a liar. That's when America went to the reclassification. Words came out of MLK mouth, I'm coming for the check. That's when America realized maybe for the first time that they were going to have to pay for that debt. They were going to have to pay for that evil. They were going to have to pay for that debt. They were going to have to pay for that evil. And I will close out there. I'm going to close out and restart this broadcast because something is going on behind the scenes. Something is going on behind the scenes and I can't make sense of it. So, folks, I got to close it out and start again. Thank you for popping in. Thank you kindly for popping in. This is Who Did You Boycott Today? Okay, folks, I'm going to pop back on here real quick. I have already spoken a little bit on my previous broadcast that I had to close out. I do not have very much time tonight. I have got to turn into bed. I have to get up and plan on cutting grass tomorrow, and I need to have my body rested. But due to the bombshell that Donald Trump has dropped on all these brain dead human beings who ran around, who are still running around telling folks that all of these terms mean the same thing. Y'all heard it the same way I have heard it for the past 2 or 3 years. All these terms mean the same thing. Black American, African American, Freeman, ADOS, and FBA. They carry the same weight as Negro. Well, Donald Trump has busted that bombshell. Donald Trump has made it very clear the threat of the Negro history on America's landmass. They're not threatened by a reclassification called Black American. Donald Trump and America is not threatened by a word called African American. Donald Trump and America is not threatened by a word called freedman. Donald Trump and America is not threatened by a word called ADOS. Donald Trump and America and the whole world is not threatened by a word called FBA. But they threatened by Negro. And Donald Trump told you before he took office that he did not want anyone to grow up hating America. Write it down. He quoted the famous quote of Donald Trump: I do not want anyone to grow up hating America. Well, what are the reasons that you can think of that anyone would grow up hating America? Well, you don't have to strain your brain to figure that one out. Negro slavery and Negro genocide and genocide of the Native Americans and the American Indians and the destabilization that America has went around the world causing other nations. Those are the three top ones. They are the three. But J. Edgar Hoover, go look it up, told America long before many of us were born, the greatest threat to America is Negro unity. You folks can go look it up. Y'all been running around here telling the world that all of these terms mean the same thing. Buffalo, Hilda, Earn, Sway Me, DJ Big A, Denmark. The list is a mile long because I started listening to you on Clubhouse in January 2022. So I have gotten an earful for over 3 years. I have personally gotten an earful for over 3 years because I remember the exact date that I downloaded Clubhouse because I did not want to download it. I had planned to never download it. I had told myself when folks were sending me the invites, I said, Aquilin, you're not going to download that Clubhouse app. You have no interest in it. But God intended for me to get over there. It was God's will that I download Clubhouse app, or I would have never encountered most of you. I would have never heard your voice, but God had a mission for me. God had a purpose for me, and God said, you're going to download that Clubhouse app. And so I did on the 5th of January, 2022. And here I am, all these years later, so that I could be alive to give my testimony, and I cannot tell you how long I've been praying and asking God. I've been praying and asking God. I have been praying and asking God to let me live long enough for y'all to get y'all just due. I said, God, bless me to live long enough to witness each one of these ungrateful human beings when you deliver their just due. And so God let me live long enough to witness that. Thank you, Heavenly Father. Thank you, Heavenly Father. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for blessing me to live long enough to witness it with my own 2 eyes and hear it with my own 2 ears. Because you never know. You never know. You can be here 1 second and you can be gone the next second. So I wasn't for sure that God would let me live long enough to witness it. So now, each one of you who ran around and told the whole world that Negro was offensive, that Negro was outdated, that all of these terms meant the same thing, you're going to eat those words. Each one of you are going to eat those words. Re-up, organizer, all you folks who pile into the re-up Twitter spaces day after day. Raymond Damon Jones, a.k.a. Clarence Thomas. Raymond Damon Jones, a.k.a. Clarence Thomas. I'll never forget the day I first crossed paths with that. Whew. That man is a dangerous man. He's a dangerous man. And I can say that because I've been on this earth for 63 years and I have encountered a whole slew of persons like him that my mother made sure that I understood before I walked out into the world, that I would encounter snakes with his character. You can spot them a mile away. You can spot them a mile away. So my mother warned me about persons like him. But you folks are gonna eat those words. I want all of you to record this what you are witnessing. Witnessing, record it. Because in 5 years and 10 years, these same human beings are going to deny that they played a part in helping Donald Trump and the Congress and the Senate and the whole world erase 246 years of Negro slavery. They are going to deny it because they preferred to be Black American. They preferred to be African American. They preferred to be freedmen. They preferred to be ADOS. They preferred to be FBA. But they forgot one thing. The crime was committed under Negro. It was recorded under Negro. They forgot that little detail. They forgot that little very, very important piece of the puzzle. The crime was committed under Negro. Was it not? Negro slavery was committed under Negro slavery. They recorded it and they labeled it Negro slavery. They could have chose to label it Black American slavery. They could have done that. They had every ability to name it Black American slavery, but they did not. They had every ability to name it African American slavery, but they did not. They had every ability to name this little word called freedman that Andrew Johnson is in his biography. It came out of his little brain. His family members put it at the end of their last name. They had the ability. Oh wait, well. We can't even mention ADOS and LPA because they hadn't been thought up out of folks' small brain. Yvette Cornell hadn't thought it up, and Tariq Nasheed had not thought it up back then. So I am taking great pleasure. Who did you boycott is taking great pleasure that God let me live long enough for them to eat those words. The Negro Twitter space tried to warn these people. La Farmer, Aeon, Talent, New Negro Republic, they all tried to warn them in January and February 2023 is when I crossed paths with that Twitter space. What happened before then, they can tell you. But I can tell you about what I witnessed personally once I came across the Twitter space of La Farmer and Aeon and Talent, New Negro Republic. They were the only ones standing on Negro. When you think about all of these millions and millions of persons who run around and claim they care about what their ancestors went through, They are ashamed of the term Negro. They are ashamed of the term Negro, but they proud of the word nigger. They are ashamed of the word, of the term, the ethnicity, the birthright, the race Negro, but they proud of the word nigger. You tell me that you have been witnessing ungrateful human beings who run around and call each other nigger every other word. But do you hear them acknowledging Negro as proudly as they acknowledge nigger? Tell me I'm a liar. Because I've been listening for 3 years. I don't hear them opening their mouth and acknowledging Negro the same way they acknowledge nigger. They love that word nigger. Oh, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. They love that word nigger. And they're not making no money off of it. But the enemy is, the only thing they getting out of that exchange is an early grave. An early grave. But everybody else is making money off of it. And those folks who make music, they making a little bit of money. Well, you tell me how anybody else is making money off of it. Because I've been on this earth for 63 years, and I cannot evaluate, I cannot dissect, I cannot analyze how all of these adults that run around calling each other nigger is making money. But I clearly know the enemy is making a lot of money. They making money every time they cash in those insurance policies on those persons who call themselves a nigger. If they got a insurance policy attached to their social security number, they cashing in. They cashing in when you're alive, and they cashing in when you die. But I don't see all of these folks who call themselves community activists and community caring, who cape for the Republicans and the Democrats. I don't see them making no money off of calling each other nigger. They need to send me proof. They need to send me proof. They need to send me proof that they have been making money off of calling each other nigger every other word. And now they have stooped so low. They have stooped so low, they want to damage the young children and call them YN, young niggers. It wasn't bad enough that they adopted the word that the slave master degraded Negroes. Now they want to make sure the young children are harmed before they ever get a chance to start their life. That's how low down these adults are. You got to be really low to stoop that low. Why you need to reach back and label young children YN? Why is that necessary? Can someone explain that? Can someone please explain to me why adults feel the need to label young children a YN, young nigger? Why is that necessary? Because it's got to be a reason. It's got to be a reason. But they're not going to own up to it. They're not going to own up to it. They're going to deny it. That they're going to program that young child to see themselves as a young nigger. They're not going to try to program that child to have confidence and see themselves as a human being. That would be asking too much. That would be asking too much, but they run around here and claim they care about their community. Well, the enemy don't have a gun to your head and forcing you to call young children a YN. They're not forcing you to do that. And then we got this brain dead man by the name of Ronald. That's not even, don't even look like a melanated person. Look like a Mexican Latino to me. I'm willing to bet my life on it that if he took a DNA test, that it would trace back to a Latino or Mexican ethnicity. But this sorry human being is on shut up and dribble stage fighting to hold on to the word nigger. And he's not even being damaged at the same level that the Negroes have been damaged for hundreds of years. But he got the audacity to get on a public app and try to defend the word nigger, holding on to it. When I'm willing to bet my life that he do not have one ancestor that come from Negro slavery. I'm willing to bet my life on it. That's how I can look at that man's face and nothing about his character features, nothing about his character features are traits of a Negro. Call me a liar. But he got the loudest voice for trying to defend the word nigger. Folks are exposing themselves. Folks are exposing themselves. They are downright exposing themselves. These snakes are coming out of the holes and the cracks every which way. They don't even realize half the time when they opening their mouth, they telling on themselves. That's how pitiful they are. They don't even realize that somebody is in the anonymous listening section analyzing and dissecting every word coming out of their mouth. They don't even think about that, I guess. That the enemy is listening. I guess the CIA intelligence are listening. And then you got the average little person that's listening. In the listening anonymous section. And that teenager, that young child, that young impression child is listening. More than likely, they got access to the internet. They got access to these social media platforms, and they getting an earful from these adults who's supposed to be setting a positive example. But they're gonna hear adults get on a public app and try to defend wanting to identify as a nigger. That is mental illness. That is mental illness. They like to run around and say, well, no matter, the enemy gonna see you as a nigger. Just because your enemy can spend their whole waking every day of their life telling themselves that you are a nigger, that don't mean that you have to see yourself that way. Unless you have a mental illness. I cannot control how someone else see me. I don't have that ability. But I'm not going to sit on a public app and tell the whole world that I'm going to see myself as a nigger because my enemy will always see me as a nigger. That don't make sense. Unless you are defeated. Unless you have already been defeated in your mental capacity, in your spiritual capacity, your whole existence has been defeated. That you prefer to see yourself as a nigger because you think your enemy, because you know your enemy think that way, is no reason to run around and call yourself a nigger. God is going to punish each one of you for harming that child. Every time the word YN come out of your mouth, God is recording it in the book. One thing God has made clear to all of us, the children are precious. They are to be protected at all costs. They are precious. They are to be protected at all costs. Do y'all think that God is going to let you get away with running around calling young children YNs, young niggers, and you're not going to answer to that? Do y'all really think that? Have y'all gotten so mentally ill that you think you can get away with that? Because some of you must think that. Because I pop into the anonymous listening section quite a bit while I'm working on my other tasks. I break away from my other work and I pop into the anonymous listening section, and you adults are going to town calling these young children YNs, young niggers. And you really think that God is going to let you get away with that? Do y'all really think that? Because somebody convinced you of that. Someone had to convince you that you were going to get away with that. That you were going to decide to harm that child's life before it gets started. Someone convinced you of that. Because that child came into the world a human being. That child was birthed into the world a human being and not a nigger. They were not birthed into the world a young nigger. And you adults don't have the right to place that label on that child. But somebody told you that you had the right to do it. And I would kind of like to know who. I would kind of like to know who told you that. Somebody can send me a comment or they can send me a DM. If they want to come on the broadcast, they can request to come on the broadcast and answer that question anytime they feel like doing it, but they don't have the backbone to do it. They don't have the backbone to do it, but they have the backbone to sit on a public app and tell the whole world, we want you to see our young children as young niggers. They have no problem getting up day after day telling the whole world that this young child, that teenager, that 10-year-old, that 12-year-old, that 14-year-old, that 16-year-old, they not a human being. They are a young nigger. They have no problem getting up day after day doing that. But they won't come on my broadcast and answer that question. Who gave them the right to do that? Who gave them the right to do that? Well, they don't have to answer me. They're gonna have to answer to God. Don't bother being concerned about me. Because your day, when it's time for you to stand before judgment, you're gonna answer that question. Each one of you who is calling a young child a young nigger, you are going to answer God one day. So you don't have to come on my broadcast and answer the question for me, because I'm clear. I'm clear that God made that understanding clear to me, that the young children are precious and they to be protected. So these same ungrateful human beings think they are deserving of reparations. They think they are deserving of reparations, and Donald Trump and the Congress and the Senate has made it very clear they would not ever see one dime or one penny or one nickel or one quarter of reparations, because they have no motivation to want to do that. And now they're making it very clear to you that they're too busy erasing. They are way too busy erasing Negro slavery and Negro ancestors' history. They don't have no time to pay you any attention because you sit on a public app talking about a word called reparations. They are too busy erasing the evidence. They too busy erasing the evidence of the crime that they don't have to pay you no mind, because they're gonna erase that evidence. So that's what they care about. That's what J. Edgar Hoover told them when they asked him the question. J. Edgar Hoover What is the greatest threat to America? J. Edgar Hoover, do you mind answering the question, what is the greatest threat to America? J. Edgar Hoover answered the question. He said, 2 words, Negro unity. Go look it up. Don't take my word for it. Go look it up and call me a liar. It wasn't a lie, because J. Edgar Hoover answered the question, and it was 2 little words. Negro unity is the greatest threat to America, and that has not changed. Talent, New Negro Republic, had reported on that in the Negro Twitter space, that from his research, and he spent valuable time off of his life to research it for all of us, and read it to all of us, that America decided in 1790, they had a Negro problem. America came to that understanding in 1790 that they had a Negro problem. Well, the Negro problem did not go away in 1800. The Negro problem did not go away in 1840. The Negro problem did not go away in 1890. The Negro problem did not go away in 1950. No, America figured out that they had a Negro problem in 1790. And as long as the Negro bloodline is on the face of the earth, the whole world has a Negro problem, because they have figured out, a lot of them have figured out, that Negro is a true bloodline, that is royalty, that God's chosen people are the Negro bloodline. And a lot of folks have figured that out. A lot of folks have figured it out. And a lot of folks are trying to steal it. They're trying to steal it and rewrite and erase the recorded Negro history. All these folks are running around here like a chicken with their neck cut off. They want to erase Negro. Black Americans are on a public app telling the whole world that they deserve credit for the 50,000 patents. They deserve credit for the sacrifice that the Negro ancestors went through for 246 years. And those individual persons did not identify as Black Americans. But go into any of these Twitter spaces and on these social media platforms, and you only hear folks is acknowledging the classification Black American, when clearly the recorded history started in 1619, when those 20 persons landed on the landmass called America. Their identity became Negro. The evil subpar human beings who stripped those 20 persons of their identity, of their freedom, of their ethnicity, of their birthright, and they were identified, they were given the identity, if you want to say that, Negro. Their identity became Negro. Nothing can change that. Not nothing that any one of us can say out of our mouth can change that. God controlled that. God controlled that. And those individual human beings deserve to be recognized that they existed. They walked the face of the earth. They walked the face of the earth. And they have a identity. And for whatever length of time their identity was Negro, it deserves to be recognized. They deserve that much. Each one of them deserve that much. But these ungrateful human beings don't want to honor and respect that. They want to run around and tell the whole world that Black American and African American and freemen and ADOS and FBA replaced each one of those human beings' time on this earth, that their identity was Negro. That don't matter to them. They don't want the world to respect and honor their existence. So they run around and tell the whole world that Black Americans have over 50,000 patents. But when you go to Google and you put in that person's name and say, was this individual person a formerly enslaved person? And it's going to come back with the recorded history. And it's not going to say Black American. Call me a liar. Because I have looked up quite a few of the inventors' names. Personally, I have looked them up. And when I go look up their name, I type their name in the box, in the Google search box. And then I put, was this person a formerly enslaved person? It's quite simple. I ain't got to guess at it. I don't have to make an assumption. I simply have to type the information in the search box. And it come back with the answer. But Jake opened his Twitter spaces and constantly say, Black Americans are responsible for over 50,000 patents and inventions, when clearly that's a bald-faced lie. Clearly that's a bald-faced lie, but he run around and spread it anyway. This man run around and dishonor the sacrifice that each one of those Negroes made, all because he preferred to identify as Black American. But do anyone correct him? No, they sit right there on that microphone and they don't come off of that microphone and make that correction. All them sit in those rooms one after another and they constantly hear folks come off the microphone and make blatant, bald-faced lie statements, and no one has the backbone to correct it. So you tell me, are they not helping Donald Trump in America erase the recorded history? You answer the question. Don't let me answer it for you. You tell me that they did not help. That each time they did it, that they were not helping Donald Trump in America wash the blood off of their heads. You tell me they were not doing that. That they were not helping America erase each one of those human beings' sacrifice and their time on this earth. You tell me they were not doing that. Of course they were doing that. Of course they were erasing those individual human beings' life and changing their identity to Black American. They made that conscious choice to do that. But America and Donald Trump and the Congress and the Senate didn't need your help. They did not need your help. They do not need my help. They do not need your help, and they do not need my help. They already have a mission. They are already on a mission to erase Negro slavery. That's been made. That decision was made long before many of us were born. That decision was made from the very moment that America went to the reclassification Black American in 1966. See that? Do you see that? They made that decision when they went to the reclassification called Black American in 1966. And you can go look it up on Google, and it's on my timeline because I took a screenshot of it. Because I know they're going to get around to erasing it. But they too late. They are too late because I have already downloaded the screenshot. So they can run over to Google and erase it, but I have already recorded it. I have already recorded it and downloaded it. So I will make sure that my daughter have firm instructions to protect it if I die. When that day comes, when I die, my daughter is going to know clearly to protect it. And when she dies, to pass it on to the next person. You see how that works? From the moment that MLK told America, I'm coming for the check. MLK said, I'm coming for the check. America went to the reclassification shortly after that. You think that was a coincidence? Do you folks think that was a coincidence? Are y'all folks that brain dead that y'all can't connect the dots? It just was a coincidence that America did not decide to go to the reclassification Black American in 1880. They did not decide to go to the reclassification Black American in 1890. They did not go to the reclassification Black American in 1900. They did not go to the reclassification Black American in 1910, 1920, 1930, 1940, 1950, 1960. They waited until 1966. Why do you think they waited? And they did not go to the classification African American until the middle of 1980. Y'all think all of that was by accident? No. It was not by accident. Just like integration was not by accident. Integration was all about control and power over the Negroes. They were jealous of how successful the Negroes were, and they wanted to have control over those human beings' existence. And what better way to have control than to come up with a evil plan of integration? America suffered during Depression, and they wanted those Negro spending dollar power. That was the only motivation. Spending dollar power and control and power over their existence were the only motivating factors for this little thing called integration. That's the same thing that was the only thing that motivated America to fight the Civil War, because they wanted to save their precious Union. They never wanted to let those human beings have their freedom. They never wanted them human beings to have their freedom. The only thing that motivated them was that they wanted to save their precious Union. And so they died, all because they wanted to keep human beings as slaves. The South wanted to keep slavery, and the North did not. The North was jealous of all the economic benefit that the South made from Negro slavery. And so they were not pleased with that. They could not compete with it. And so, because they could not, since the North could not compete with the South, economic that they made from Negro slavery, they went to a war. They all went to a war, and now they in the 21st century trying to whitewash it. Now they are in the 21st century trying to rewrite it and claim that it was all the Jews, that the pink people, Caucasians, had a very tiny bit of to do with it. I don't know why human beings waste time off of their life trying to lie. I never have been able to understand that. Even when I was growing up as a young child, I never was able to understand how much energy is put into lying. But anyway, these pink people who call themselves white, they are pink. And that is a fact, because that's the closest of their skin tone. That's the closest of their skin tone is a very, very, very light pink. And that's why I call them pink. And that's why I don't call them white. Because no human being is white. No human being is white. Y'all folks sound foolish running around here calling folks as white and black. Y'all need to record yourself. You need to record yourself and play it back. And listen to how foolish you sound calling a human being a white person and a black person. God never birthed not one single human being on this earth as a white person. That never took place. That never took place. And God never birthed one human being on this earth a black person. That never took place. But these pink people are running around here trying to repaint the narrative that they had a very tiny bit to do with slavery. Well, there's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of images out there of pink people. They could be Jewish, they could be German, they could be Irish, they could be Brit, they could be Chinese, they could be Latino or Mexican. But one thing is for clear, one thing is for certain, that those persons in those pictures were not Negroes. And they even got the audacity to try to run around and paint a narrative that Negroes enslaved other Negroes. Yes, a lot of folks had to buy their own family members. They had to buy their own family members, and now they trying to shape a different narrative. Because we clearly know that Negroes back then, unless they had a tiny bit of status, they didn't have the power and control that made the laws, that enforced the laws, that would have gave them the ability to outdo the pink people and the Jews as far as ownership over human beings as slaves. Now, we clearly know that. We clearly know that because of all the racism and discrimination that's currently going on today. That things were a whole lot worse back then. Things were a whole lot worse back then. So if there are any records or recorded history of a Negro owning another melanated person, there's a very good reason for it. There's a very good reason. And these lying human beings clearly know that. They clearly know that, but they made the mistake. They recorded it. They never expected to answer for Negro slavery. They never anticipated answering for it, and so they recorded it because they were proud of it. They were proud of it, and now it's coming back to haunt them. They told on themselves. See, evil subpar human beings will always make enough mistakes to tell on themselves. And that's what these subpart evil human beings done. They recorded it. Then they wrote books about it. Then they wrote documentaries about it. Then they wrote articles about it. And now they want to try to lie about it. Well, it's too late. Well, it's just too late. You should have thought about that while you were busy recording it. You should have thought about that while folks were busy recording it. Because now it's too late. There's too many books. There's too many documents. It's just too many books. It's too many documents. And a lot of folks got memories. So it's too late to try to rewrite the history. So you folks can go run to Donald Trump and let him know. Go let Donald Trump and all the Republicans and the Democrats know that it's too late to try to whitewash that history. Donald Trump can go to the graveyard and erase a person's name off a headstone. Donald Trump can put up all the historical monuments for sale. Donald Trump can attack Jackie Robinson legacy. Donald Trump can attack Harriet Tubman legacy, MLK, Malcolm X. He can go down the whole laundry list, and he can erase the names on battleships. All of that trouble is for waste. It's wasted time. It's wasted time because too many folks got documentation already downloaded. Someone needs to let Donald Trump know that all that effort is a waste of time. Because Donald Trump been quite busy since he took office. He made it very clear that his number one target was Negro history and Negro slavery. That Donald Trump don't want his grandkids and great-grandkids to have to grow up learning about Negro slavery. Donald Trump don't want his grandkids and great-grandkids to grow up learning about Negro history. Donald Trump don't want the legacy to be passed to his precious baron that they hope will be president one day. They don't want Barron to have to answer those questions about that blood on America's hands for Negro slavery. No, they got to make sure that they erase all of that. So when that legacy is passed down to Barron won't have to answer no questions about Negro slavery in about 5 to 10 years. In about 5 to 10 years, America hope and the whole world hope to erase Negro slavery. And they want to insert Germans and Italians and Irish and Asians and Latinos and Mexicans into that 246 years. That's the master plan. That's the master plan. That is the master plan. They are already starting to lay the groundwork. They are already laying the groundwork, and they are not trying to hide it from you. They telling you to your face. They are telling you to your face that by the time you wake up in about 5 to 10 years, the German indentured servants are going to be written into that 246 years. All of those Italians and those Irish persons that came over right after 1820, those persons who claimed they were indentured servants, they are going to claim they were the slaves. And Negro slavery, they hope is going to disappear. So when you and I wake up in 5 to 10 years, and somebody asks you the question, or if you mention Negro slavery, they're gonna look at you like you're crazy, because they're gonna hope that they have done a thorough job of erasing it. And so when they go back and research the history, it's gonna be Germans in that history. It's going to be Italians. They're gonna be written into it. The Irish are going to be written into it. The Asians are going to be written into it. And the Latinos and Mexicans, they are all standing in line like Black Friday. They are falling over each other, fighting tooth and nail to be written into that 246 years. They are literally standing in line like Black Friday, trying to claim that 246 years. But they're not going to get away with it. They are not going to get away with it, because God has already recorded it. It's already in the book. It's in the book. So these folks are wasting time. They are wasting time because it's already recorded. It's already been written in the book. Those 246 years that Negroes went through Negro slavery has already been recorded. It has already been recorded. So all these good folks who went and voted for Donald Trump, for all these good folks who went and voted for Donald Trump, that's your reward. I hope your tax cut and your imaginary immigration was worth the sacrifice of 246 years and another 100 years up until 1965. I hope to God it was worth the sacrifice. Mark King Carter, Sway Me, Buffalo, Denmark, Miss T, DJ BK, all you brain dead human beings that ran around and caped for the Republicans, the Democrats wouldn't have done much better. Kamala Harris was certainly going to dump half of the over a billion population of India into America as quickly as they could send out the visas. But I don't think they would have went as far as what Trump is doing. Don't think that would have been possible. They wouldn't have had the backbone to do it, because they fully understand that the Negro has been a dependable voting bloc. They wouldn't have done that. But these evil Republicans and those 13 states that defected from the Union, they don't have no qualms about doing it. Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, these folks on Clubhouse had 2 years to make sure that Donald Trump and Kamala Harris did not reach 270. They had a chance to do that because Donald Trump only won by 2%. That was their leverage, and they passed up on it. They had the ability to make it impossible for Donald Trump to get 270. They had the ability to make sure that Kamala Harris did not get 270. But they didn't think about that. They were too happy to tell the Republicans and the Democrats that they were looking forward to voting for them. But they had the ability because immigration was the invasion takeover threat. The invasion takeover threat of immigration was so critical and so crisis that they had the ability to demand Special Field Order 15. They had the ability to demand cash and land. But they could not get out of their own way because of their own selfishness and their own greed. Because of their own self-agenda, they sold out. They settled for government contracts, the possibility of government contracts. They settled for grants, the possibility to apply for grants for their LLCs. They could see the dollars. They could already see the dollars. They settled for a tax cut. They settled for this narrative about mass deportation. When America has made it clear that immigration was a weapon since 1820. Since 1820, America weaponized immigration, and they were not going to give it up after you voted on the 5th of November. Why? What reason would they have to give up immigration? Because it hurt you and it hurt me? Because it may be hurting you and your family and loved ones and hurting me and my family and loved ones? That's not a good enough reason. No, America has made it clear that immigration is one of their main weapons, and no enemy give up their weapon, especially not evil America. So whoever ran around and told their people that they need to vote for immigration, they were lying. They were lying. They were lying. And you can go do the research. Immigration kicked up in 1820. But in all honesty, all of these pink people are immigrants. The only persons who are not immigrants are Negroes and possibly Native Americans and American Indians. See, Negroes were on this landmass before those pink people came. There's a debate as to whether or not the Negroes or the Native Americans got here first. There's a great debate about that, but it's clear that when the invaders went to Africa, that little place they call Africa, that those human beings on that landmass scattered to all four corners of the earth. They scattered to all four corners of the earth, and more than likely some of them ended up on this landmass called America. So the Negroes have a claim to this landmass because God sent his people to this landmass when they scattered. And that was God's decision. That was God's decision. So all of these folks who came to the landmass called America, that they named it America, God know that the bloodline Negro more than likely got to this landmass before whoever that person called Christopher Columbus, before any of those demon people landed on this landmass. Of Americans, they trying to paint a whole different narrative that they got reclassified to Negro. Okay, I don't know if that's true or not, but the blood don't lie. Cause see, who did you boycott took her blood test, and I have 1% indigenous. But all of these other folks are running around here claiming they have 10 and 20%. So why did I get left out? Out of all the human beings that have walked the face of the earth, who did you boycott only end up with 1%? That if the Native Americans and the American Indians got reclassified, then the blood is going to tell the truth. Don't that make sense? Don't that make sense? But they too busy running around discrediting a blood test. So how are you supposed to verify that you have Native American or American Indian blood floating through your veins if you don't take a blood test. How are you supposed to do that? Seeing as how these evil demons almost did a thorough job of wiping complete bloodlines of Native Americans and American Indians off the face of the earth. That's why their population is as small as it is. They were almost successful in wiping that whole bloodline of people off the face of the earth. That's how close they came to genociding that complete bloodline. But I just have a question. If Native American and American Indians got reclassified to Negro, where's the blood test quantity that proves that? Because you're going to have to take a blood test to prove it. Otherwise, who knows? God birthed each human being into the world into a specific bloodline. And the blood that keeps each one of us alive has an origin. It has an origin that God gave it. So you can't run around here and try to steal the population of Negroes and make it part of your population, because evil human beings did their absolute best to genocide that bloodline. The Negroes had nothing to do with that. The Negroes had nothing to do with that. And said if the narrative that folks are running around preaching was true, then who did you boycott would have more than 1% indigenous blood on her DNA test? That would make common sense. That would make common sense, because I certainly have been able to trace a family member back to slavery. And seeing as how folks run around and talk about all this mixing, then I should have Native American and American Indian on my DNA test. That just makes logical sense, that I would not have been left out. I just could not have been left out. My mother could not have been left out. My grandfather could not have been left out. My great-grandfather could not have been left out. If the narrative is true, something ain't right there, because I should not have been left out. I really want to try to understand, how did I end up with only 1% indigenous blood? If this narrative that folks are preaching can be verified, and I believe that a lot of folks do have 10%, maybe 10% indigenous, 20%, maybe 30%. I don't know. All I know is it did not show up on my blood test. I can't speak for millions of other persons. I can only speak for one person. I can only speak for one person and my blood test, and I have done 2. I have already done 2, and I'm probably going to do a 3rd. And each one of those 2 blood tests did not show indigenous no more than 1%. Why is that? What about that? Now, who did you boycott? Is full-blooded as I can be Negro. That's what's on my paperwork. That is what's on my mother's paperwork. That is what's on my grandfather's paperwork. That is what's on my great-grandfather's paperwork. And that is what I'm going to take to my grave. Because Negro is on my paperwork. I have the paperwork. I have the paperwork. And as long as I have the paperwork in my possession, that's my birthright. That is my birthright. That is my ethnicity. That is my race. That is my bloodline. Until God revealed differently. Unless God revealed differently to me, that is my bloodline. So we got the Native Americans and the American Indians that's got to figure out how they gonna show proof that they got reclassified. That's none of my business. That's none of my business. It's not none of my business. Not any of my business. And then we got this brain dead art appeal that's in re-up space today or yesterday, today, saying that folks shouldn't be proud of Negro slavery. Well, you folks want reparations based off of that crime that was committed under Negro slavery. All of you folks have been running around for the past 3 years hoping and praying that you're going to get reparations based on that Negro slavery. But I'm proud of the fact that Negroes survived. Those that died and survived Negro slavery, I'm proud that they was able to do that with the blessings of the good Lord. And folks don't know how to do critical thinking. Folks just simply don't know how to do critical thinking because they too busy running around trying to put down Negro slavery. But that's your evidence. The whole time you running around trying to tell the whole world to be offended by the term Negro, to believe that Negro is outdated, and while you running around telling folks that slavery is a badge of it's not a, what is the wording? Slavery is a badge of something. I can't remember how y'all worded it. But the one thing you folks don't forget about, that's the centerpiece of your evidence, of your whole justice claim. That's the centerpiece of your evidence. And so if you had a little brain in your head, you would be reminding America and the whole world every chance you get. You should be saying Negro, 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 Negro slavery, Negro slavery, Negro, Negro slavery, Negro, Negro slavery. That should be the only thing that you care about coming out of your mouth if you really understood how to do critical thinking. That's your evidence. That's your powerful evidence, and you running away from it. That's how brain dead you human beings are. Every opportunity that you get to shove Negro and Negro slavery down America's throat, it's a victory. It's a victory. It's a victory, but y'all so brain dead that y'all run away from it. Y'all prefer to say Black American. Y'all prefer to say African American. Y'all prefer to say freeman. Y'all prefer to say ADOS. Y'all prefer to say LBA. But America never enslaved one human being under those titles. They never recorded one day of Negro slavery under any of those words. So your brain is letting them off the hook every time you avoid saying Negro. Every time you avoid saying Negro slavery, you are shooting yourself in the foot. Because America recorded it, the history. And slavery was not recorded as Black American slavery. Was it? Call me a liar. Not one day of the 246 years was it ever recorded as Black American slavery. Not one day. Not one day was it ever recorded as African American slavery. Not one day was it ever recorded as freeman slavery. Not one day was it ever recorded as ADOS. Not one day was it ever recorded as FBA. No, America recorded those 246 years under Negro. That's the evidence. And they told you that because they said this Negro is up for sale today. This Negro is going to get hung today. This Negro is going to get lynched today. This Negro is going to get burnt today. I don't know how dumb and slow can you be that you don't understand that's your evidence. They told you. They told me that. They told the ancestors that. They told you that. They told me that. They told the ancestors that. They told you. The evidence was the human being that was put up for sale. They told you, as plain as day, this Negro is up for sale today. This Negro is up for sale today. This Negro is up for sale today. So why would you abandon that? That's your evidence. It's not adding up. This not adding up because you folks don't toll on yourself. You have been exposed. You are either plants or psyops or something ain't adding up. That's a no-brainer. The very evidence is the Negro that was put up for sale. But that's the only thing missing from these task forces. That's the only thing that's not coming out of your mouth day after day. So you folks can't be that dumb and slow. So I know you're not that dumb and slow because I've been listening for 3 years, and I have been listening to a very, quite a many intelligent and common sense person. So you're not that dumb and slow. So it's not adding up. That's the evidence of the crime. That is the evidence of the crime. Negro is the evidence, and that's the only thing missing. It's not being mentioned on these task forces. It's not being mentioned on these social media platforms. Do y'all think that's an accident, or is it being done on purpose? My common sense tells me that it's a psyop. It's a brilliant
derived from the biblical language, and it is an area that was alongside the Niger River. And if you actually look at ancient maps in 1736 and ancient maps in 1747 of Africa, you'll find a country called Negro Land and the Kingdom of Judah. This is of utmost importance for us to understand how Yahweh is gathering the 12 tribes that are scattered abroad. Because what actually happened is in this Gulf of Guinea in Western Africa, European slave ship holders, they were Ashkenazi slavers. They were of European origin. They were Western Mongols that infiltrated Britain and mainly Portugal. They were the Ashkenazi slavers. They were wealthy merchant slavers that went down to the coast of Guinea. They employed Mohammedan trappers, Islamics, to go into the kingdom of Judah and Negro land and take the royal house of Judah captive in slave ships, as it's recorded in the book of Deuteronomy, and bring them over to America, and they became known today as what? African Americans. Zephaniah or Zephaniah.
It applies to only
That's the first time I've heard that. And so it's going to take me a little bit to kind of digest that, I think. I don't want to offend anybody because I really just see us all as freaking meat sacks. We're just different melanation levels. Like, that is how I see.
Well, that's why if you really want to not offend people, stop calling people African Americans.
Yeah.
Use the word African, you're insinuating 12.5% or higher African blood. There's a lot of black races. The Moorish people, all these other cultures, all these other bloodlines that would never in a million years be classified as a Negro. It even says right in the definition, all colored people, Negroes are always colored people, but not all colored people are Negroes. Literally one of the definitions right out of the book. What that definition is referring to is there's a lot of black races that are not of African descent. Certain Indian tribes have very dark skin. There were people who were here in America even before us that had dark skin, and they're out in the sun all the time, or what? Who knows what? They may look even darker than they really are. All Negroes are colored people, but not all colored people are Negroes.